Okay, so I thought I'd just do another update of the van. It's moved on quite a few months since that last video. I made that for my late father, so that's who that was for originally. It was a private video, but I've now made it public. But anyway, an update. So we've got the same thing as before. We've got the isolators here, the two fuse panels for the everything inside the van, various breakers. We've got these three-way switches here, so I can switch between load and battery power. So it just everything lives on load. I never turn it off, and what it does, the controller here will switch it between load and battery on its own. So overnight it will drop the load off and it will switch to battery. I've got 300 and something watt panels on the roof, and it's more than enough power for what I need. It generates absolutely fine. We've never run out of power when we've been away in it. Got a split relay charger here as well. I don't tend to use it. I've disconnected it because I find it drains my vehicle battery down, and being a Sprinter it uses a lot of power and it's just sitting on the drive, so there's a permanent maintenance charge on the van at all times, so I'll leave that on continuously. So yeah, it just lives on load. Over here we've got the solar isolator and the solar breakers and stuff. But this is the second controller I have. The first one I had was a Chinese cheap Amazon piece of crap, and I found that one day I moved one of these and it started arcing across the terminals on its own, and it had internally started shorting the solar panels inside the actual cheap ass crap controller, so I've binned that. That was a potential fire hazard. So now we've got this Ever one, which has been really great. And you can see at the moment we've got I think I said 67 volts coming in via the solar. So 47.7 watts coming in, 2.5 kilowatt hours, 67.2 volts. So battery bank's at 14, and the load is obviously switched on. So in terms of electrics, everything works really good. I'd rather this was tidier, and I wish I'd done it a different way, but it is what it is. And you don't have to spend a fortune doing this. Some people spend money on getting all the Victron stuff. You don't have to do that. If you want to build a van, you can build a van much cheaper than spending all that money on the Victron stuff. And with the batteries, I've got 305 amp hour batteries here, and let's move you down a bit so you can see. That gives me enough supply here to run the van without any problems at all. There's no inverter or nothing. I don't need an inverter currently. We've got shore power, and so what we do is we tend to plug into the site. We always get a site that's got 240 volts on it currently. If we want an inverter at a later date, we could do that. We might get one to run the e-bikes and stuff off when we go remote camping, but at the moment this is absolutely fine. It does the job. So it works fine, so there's no problems with it. So this is running all the sewer stuff, the pumps, it's running the fresh water pumps, it's running all the internal electrics on 12 volts. It works fantastically. So again, in terms of saving money, a lot of people get underslung tanks on their van. If you want to save space, you can do that. For me, I created this van so it had a lot of height here, so I could put different water storage under here. Most important thing, you must have a smoke alarm in here in case there's any problems here. So in terms of water storage, over this side, you see these two big blue barrels. So the blue barrel over there, that one, that's the sewage. So all the sewage water goes in there, all the dirty water. This one contains all the fresh water. Now we don't drink from this water. We take bottled water. We get fresh water from the site wherever we are. We don't drink water from here. We use this for showering, and we use it for washing up and flushing the toilet, and that's it. So that's not drinking water. You're not supposed to drink water from these barrels. They're not potable water, acceptable in that sense. So we always use fresh water. Down here we've got the sewage macerator. So as the pipe comes in, it takes the shower, the toilet, and the sink, and it gets put into this pumps into that barrel at the back there. And after a few days, when you're away, you just hook it up to the drain on the site and dump it out. And it's not like a separate grey water tank, etc. It's all mixed together because it's so pulverised. It's just like a grey coloured water anyway. That macerator is really good at breaking down stuff, so it literally nothing left of what goes in there. Over here on the left we've got a water heater and an expansion vessel over the back here, just to take the flow a bit of the pressure up as the water expands. It's a 240 volt 3 kilowatt or 2 kilowatt, I can't remember, maybe 2 kilowatt water heater. Again, it's run by solenoids and stuff here. One solenoid does the shower, one does the toilet. Obviously not got hot, this is for cold water. The hot and cold water goes to the sink into the shower. It's mixed here for the shower. So that all works really good as well. And again, them barrels were like 30 quid, something like that each. At a later date I'd like to get some underneath the van, but for now that does me absolutely fine. I could do with the space there, and once I put my barbecue in here and stuff, it's pretty full. But certainly at a later date we can swap these out. But for now, as a temporary cheap solution, if you've got the space, these barrels are watertight. They're vented at the top, so they go underneath the van, so they vent out, so there's no smells coming in, and they do an excellent job of storing the water and letting us collect water when we're using it. So I'm going to show you inside in a second, but on the back here as well we've got a boosted water pump here, just supplying the water to the shower and toilet and everything, and that's with a pressure switch, so as it requires demand it then switches itself on. So that's really it in terms of the back here. It's quite different from that last video. This horrible green cable here is the telemetry going to the front of the van to tell me what's going on with the solar, so that's what that does. But yeah, this controller is great. It's kept the van running for the last 6 months without any issues whatsoever. It's been fantastic, so I highly recommend this controller. That was about 150, something like that, 130. You can get them on eBay. But I got it from, everything I got for my solar I got from Giant Wood Solar in Norfolk. That guy is great. The solar panels came from him, this controller came from him. We went through how to wire it up and everything as well, so obviously I've done it all myself, but yeah, just fantastic. Done my cables for me, put the crimps on there. A really good guy. Very cheap stuff he's got there. He's got tons of solar panels, so Giant Wood Solar. Definitely worth a look if you want solar panels. He's got stacks of them, all off solar farms, so well worth it. So that's really it. Everything's isolatable. Each section's isolatable. We can swap over and change it around as needed. Don't need a battery charger anymore. It's all self-sufficient. Got the shunt on here for the front, but I'm not really using it because I don't use the load on the batteries anymore. All I do is use the load from the controller. So that's what, you know, that shunt is basically redundant. I've never switched it on since I fitted this. I'll just use this on load, and this then powers up everything going to the van, so it's, you know, only using batteries overnight, and during the day it's using direct solar power, so that's just fantastic. So it saves the batteries a lot of work. They're never getting drained, and the batteries have been good. They've maintained their charge the whole time. Unfortunately they're lead acid, but again, it's money, isn't it? You know, it's how far do you go with spending money on this project. So there is cheaper ways of building your van. You don't have to get 400 quid batteries. You don't have to spend £2,000 on Victron stuff. You can do it quarter of the price or even cheaper. So don't necessarily listen to all the people who are buying this Victron stuff and so forth. I'm not a Victron hater. I never use their stuff. I don't know how good it is or how bad it is. I've got no idea. All I'm saying is you don't need to spend tons of money to build your van. You can build a van cheaply, and it's entirely up to you. It's your vehicle, your choice. Definitely put a smoke alarm in here just in case there is any problems. But we've never had any problems as yet. Nothing's ever got hot. The cable sizing I've worked out from charts. Again, in hindsight you could do things differently, but there you go. This black pipe here is the sewer from the toilet. I'll take you inside now and show you around the inside, but that's really it for the hellhole, as I call it. It's hell for me getting in and out of here, so it's such fun. You can see there's no sunlight at the moment. It's just cloudy sky, so that solar's collecting pretty good off that roof at the moment. So I put the solar panels on rails on the roof, bolted down on galvanised rails, and I drilled the solar panel corners on each one and then bolted L-shaped brackets down to that rail, so they're not going to come off ever. And I've been on quite a few trips with them, never had any problems. Always check that they're tight. Occasionally they're got locking nuts on them as well, so they can't come undone. So we're currently collecting 64.5 volts at the moment, and it's very overcast, there's no sun, so I mean that shows you what this controller can do. Even on the most crappiest day it's still collecting. So yeah, really pleased. Okay, I'll take you inside. Okay, so join me inside the van. Cargo door is now done, the window. It wasn't on the previous video. Still needs to be finished off, the finishing edges need to be done. The cabinets are all in here now, so they're flip top cabinets, they're all in. Got the sink all working, kitchen units are all done. Looking backwards here, get some power on so you can see stuff. So to get the power on in this van, hit the load button here on the controller. Wake up. Oh, I turned it off, on. Okay, it's got the load going on, so you've got voltage here on the power supply. Got kitchen lights and bedroom lights, so they're on. So we've got another little cupboard here I've installed, and obviously there's 2 cupboard flips at the top. Still needs some painting to be done, and some finishing touches to be done in there. So in terms of the bathroom, put that up there. Where's my bathroom switch? There it is. So we've got the bathroom here. Got a shower and shower tray, some water in there, get rid of that in a second. So the toilet, everything there flushes. Got a fan in here as well. So to flush the toilet in this vehicle, switch the switch. That's going to bring the fresh water on for the toilet. And flick the switch off, switch it to sewerage. Let's put the plug in the sink. And that's going to pull that toilet away. Also, it scavenges this pump, so the sewage pump in the back of the van will scavenge. So it will suck that shower water out of there as well. So I'll pull that water out of the toilet. Put a bit of water back in, this doesn't smell. So that's basically the shower. Got hot and cold water in the shower, so that's pretty nice. Flushing toilet. If you have, this is a marine toilet I got about 30 quid. But for the macerate, you need to use different toilet paper. So this toilet paper is a lot lighter, so it breaks up. It's biodegradable stuff, so it breaks up really easy. So the macerator eats it easier. Just rather than using normal toilet paper in that, so that's much better for it. So that's really, there's the trims to go on in the edges and around the sides here. Yeah, they've got the bathroom fan. And that all works good. So you're having a shower, get rid of the condensation. Okay, in terms of the sink, you've got hot and cold water on the sink. And again, that's pumped out with the same switch. Just hit the sewage button and that'll pump out the sink. Turn that off. So really that's it for internally wise here. Obviously everything's pretty much getting there. It's still not finished yet. It's took probably about 2 years of work every weekend for months to get it done. Got USB sockets at the back and sides. There's another switch at the back there as well for the lights over the bed, so you don't have to come back here. Once you get in bed, you can switch the lights on at the back and turn them off. Got different coloured LEDs for night times. You've got blue, and we've got red at the front here as well. So you've got different coloured LEDs. So you can have different mood lighting here, subject to being angry or sad. Well, maybe not. But different coloured mood lighting. So as you're using stuff here, obviously the solar is drawing voltage. So I put the bathroom fan on. So a bit of a load on there. We'll be able to look at the controller. So at the moment we've got 69.9 volts coming in via the solar, and that's going straight onto the load. It is trickling into the batteries as well, but mainly use this for load only. So everything in the van at the moment is running off of load off the solar directly, so no battery power is being used. However, the controller will top up from the batteries if it needs to, and it will do it automatically. So scrolling through here, we've got the charge energy, battery 13.9.5 amps, the solar's coming at 69.6, 0.5 an amp, 35.3 watts are currently coming in, 32 degrees on the controller. The load has got 13.9 volts, 2.1 amps, 29.4 watts. If I turn like these LEDs off, this will change. This will drop down considerably to where it was. There you go, down to 15 volts. Scrolling through. So that's really it in terms of that controller. To isolate the internal load, to push that button, it cuts everything off. That brings it back on again. This is the shunt, which I don't use, as I explained at the back. If I'm using battery power only, this shunt will be live, but at the moment I'm not using any battery power. It's running off load only. So that's really it for the internal wiring. It's fairly straightforward. Everything works. It's a bit messy at the front here, but at the front here we've got the CCTV screen installed, and that'll show all around the van, front, backs and sides. That's very helpful if you're manoeuvring the van around, being such a long vehicle, being a long wheelbase. 240 volts available down there, 240 volts available here, so if you're plugged into shore power you can use your stuff on here. We've got a little fan heat here which we sometimes use if we're going away and it's turned cold. We just pop that on. Got to be careful you don't overload it, that's all. So you don't want to run that plus the water heater plus the kettle. That would be overloading it. It's only a 13 amp supply coming in to that fuse board at the back. So try to minimise the amount of power being used. So for example, if we're using the fan heater, we turn the water heater off, we won't use the kettle. If we want to use the kettle, we turn the fan heater off and so forth. You've just got to be sensible. You don't want to start a fire in here, so you've got to be sensible, don't overload anything. Eventually you'll get it to work off an inverter. Lead acid batteries are going to hate having to run that heater, but again, it's a cheap temporary fix. We always go to a site that's got power on it anyway, so we can not worry too much about having to use an inverter at the moment. And again, all this stuff is relatively cheap. You don't have to spend a fortune on building this worktop. That came off Facebook Marketplace, and that cost about 20 quid. It was left over from a job someone had. The units were free of charge. They came out of a house and they've been repurposed. So that kitchen, the sink I got for 10 quid. The tap I got from Screwfix for about 15 quid, 20 quid. So that kitchen has cost, about 80 quid at the most. Again, you don't have to spend thousands of pounds. You can do this on a budget. You don't have to spend a ton of money. All the laminate flooring on the ceiling and on the sides was all collected from people who had leftover laminate flooring from jobs they were doing. So we drove around a bit and collected packs of laminate flooring. It has to be roughly the same size so it will slot together, but if it didn't, we just cut the tongue and groove off it. But it all came from different properties where they'd done laminate flooring, had 2 or 3 packs left over. We didn't actually buy any from anywhere specifically, so all the laminate flooring in here cost around 60-70 quid at the most, maybe less. Again, you don't have to spend all that money on buying sheets of ply, and laminate's heavy, that's the only downside, but it is what it is. And it's up to you. We've weighed the van, we're way under the legal limit. It's a 3.5 ton van. I think we're at 3.1 at the moment. So when we travel, we dump the water out in the sewage. Obviously we don't travel with full of water or anything. We empty everything out. Obviously we travel light as possible to save as much fuel as possible. And that's really it. I mean, we put this table in and this little seat as well, so when you're sitting here you can have a little table lifted up, so you can have a seat here. Make sure you can see that. So the little post goes underneath there, and you can sit there and have your meals. We cut the seat base down. We had 2 seats there originally, a double seat. We cut that in half. I cut it in half with my grinder, made it 1 seat. Got the driver's seat as well. The dog sits in the middle there when we go away. She's a Rottweiler, so she sits in the middle there. She's quite big. Eventually I'll change them seats to Range Rover seats. But not just at the moment, but eventually I will. But yeah, you put seat covers on, just tidy them up a little bit. The driver's seat was a bit ripped from where it had been used previously, but the van's been really good. I changed the fuel pressure rail sensor in it. The only problem I had was that pressure rail sensor was putting the van into engine management mode light because it wasn't detecting the pressure correctly in the fuel rail. So I changed that, and since I've had no problems with it whatsoever. That's the only problem I've had with the van since I've had it. Needs a couple of tyres at the front at some point before we go away again. But we spend we spent quite a bit of time going away in it, and it's thoroughly enjoyable to get it out and to get away and enjoy the peace and quiet of a nice field somewhere, and all the hard work pays off. So I highly recommend you do this if you can afford to do it, but certainly do not spend all your money on things that you don't need to spend. You can source loads of stuff used or second hand from just by looking around. You haven't got to pay for all new stuff, unless of course you want to. If you want to do that, you can, but you don't have to. So the toilet's 30 quid. The shower tray, I think I got that online from eBay. That was about 15 quid. Just a thin plastic tray. It's all insulated underneath it, and there's ply underneath that to support it. The laminate flooring in here and on the floor here, it all came from people's packs of stuff left over. The windows obviously I had to buy from Van Pimps and fit them myself. Had no problems with them, they're good. And the rear windows were also brought from them. But that's really the most expensive purchases with things like the windows. The water heater we have brought new because it's not worth buying that second hand. But other than that, you can really do it on a budget. So yeah, please shop around. Don't spend thousands on Victron controllers and Bluetooth modules and stuff. Just look around at what you can get, and you'll find that you can get stuff much cheaper than. I mean, bear in mind, people online when they're doing the videos are often sponsored by these companies and stuff, so it's not necessarily a true reflection anyway. But yep, it's great, good fun, good to be away. So just before I head in, I'll just show you that on top here is the solar panels. They're on rail and they're bolted down. I drilled the side of the solar panels to take the bracket, and they're fixed down nice and securely with locking nuts, so they can't come off. The van had a dented front wing which I've changed. That was just simply a matter of unbolting and bolting another one on. Need a piece of trim for here. Repainted the van. I think it took 3 litres of paint to hand paint it. Need to do around the screen again. I hit it with a pressure washer too hard, but it was still a bit soft. That's blown it off, but apart from that, it's all good. It looks okay, much tidier. Filled in all the dents down the side that it had with filler, sanded it off, so it's looking tidier than what it did. Okay.